people. So it has been a little bit, but I'm excited to bring this young lady to you all today. My next guest on Development Dimes. I actually met her at a conference in New York. I love it when we are not afraid to approach one another and just come up and say, hey, my name is, and this is what I do, and what do you do? And next thing you know, you've made a connection, right? And so that is exactly what she did. And you all know how I am about names. And so I'm gonna say it, and please, if I pronounce it incorrectly, please correct me. I will not mind, but I do love to make sure that I say people's names correctly because that's what we were given at birth. And so it's Wunmi Onile-Ere.
That's good enough.
Oh,
It's
good.
close. The N is silent, so Wunmi.
Wunmi. Okay. So see, look, I don't mind being corrected. I want to make sure I say people's names right. And so was super excited to meet you. Was
Thank you.
definitely excited to hear about you and your background and so impressed. I'm telling y'all, I keep bringing people on this podcast who are amazing. You all will be surprised at such wonderful people in this world and the things that they all have accomplished. So I'm going to give just a quick little background and then I'm going to let you tell them about yourself and we'll go from there, okay?
Sounds good.
So this young lady, you are originally from Nigeria, correct?
Correct.
Okay, you used to live in London. You are a UCLA undergrad. You have your MBA from Columbia, folk. Okay, she looks like she just graduated from high school. She already has her MBA from Columbia. She's done so much that I really just want her to get into it because I don't think that I will do her story justice at all. And so I am going to introduce you all to this young lady and let her just kind of tell you a little bit about yourself, tell them a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to, of course, pivot into like how you got into real estate and what it is that you're doing and all of that. So feel free.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for having me on the show, Tawanda. Did I say your name correctly?
Yes,
Tawanda.
you did.
Yeah.
Tawanda,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Yes, it was a pleasure meeting you at DCRE, which is such an amazing conference that brings people together from across the country who are all passionate about the built environment. And you were so gracious and so lovely when we met. And hence the connection and hence being here right now. So thank you for being a phenomenal woman.
Yes.
Um, so um, So I guess a little bit of a background. Yes, I'm from Nigeria. I lived there till I was about 11. Then I went to school in England, boarding school in England. Finished around 16 and then started college at 16 at UCLA. Well, first I went to Santa Monica College because UCLA said I was too young. And they wanted to make sure I would maintain my grades and have the maturity to be in an environment that has 30,000 students.
Right.
So we had an agreement where I transferred after a couple of years at Santa Monica College,
Mm-hmm.
and which is such a great school, by the way. Do not knock community colleges. And then transferred to UCLA. Had my undergrad in economics and international studies, and from there I was recruited by an oil company, by BP, into their trader development program, which is basically a 3-year rotational program where they're developing you to be an oil trader.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that for a couple of years. I worked with them in California, then in Washington State. I worked out of a refinery for a year, doing LPG scheduling, crude scheduling, and a couple of other things. And then moved to just outside Chicago and worked with them for another year. And then
Wow.
I got recruited again by this time by a Nigerian oil major called Oando.
Mm-hmm.
And so Oando Trading, Supply and Trading, and moved there. So I moved back to Nigeria and I
Mm-hmm.
worked there for about, I can't remember now, the years keep adding up. I worked there for a number of years, a number of years. And while I was being, in more, getting more and more responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I started there as a market, I don't know if you want me to go into details of roles and so on, but I worked there for a little bit.
Yeah. So what I want to do really quickly though is like, how old were you, right? When you
Uh,
started at BP, like, because I mean, you finished school at 16 and then you went to community college. Shout out to community colleges because I went to one too. I went to BCCC in Baltimore City. So, that is definitely a great start for those who were young like yourself that may still need like a little bit of, not to say that you were immature, but in the mindset of the college world, they may feel like you need just a little bit more assistance, like you said, to make sure that you don't drown in a sea of 30,000 adults, if you will, you know.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so like, so how old were you by the time that you finished school and you started working for BP?
So I ended up doing it because I was doing a double major and a minor. So I did 5 years in school. So by the time I graduated at 20, but I literally just turned 21 the day before, like 2 days before I started at BP.
Wow.
So it was very strange because a lot of people get their summer off and so on. But I graduated like on, I'll never forget, it was like on a Wednesday, and then by Monday I was starting at BP. And
Wow.
so I did not get a break in life. It was just like just go, 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 go,
Right.
go, go throughout from working till date.
Wow. Okay. And and so for some people, that may be like they feel like they missed out on something, right? Going straight from school, going to the community college, going from there to UCLA and going from there and right into, I mean, BP working as an oil trader, that's crazy. That's not somebody going to work as, I'm not even going to name any type of job titles because people might, what do you mean by that? But that's not your average job, right? coming
Absolutely.
coming out of college. And so that's super stinking impressive. I
Yeah,
mean,
it was.
cool
Yeah,
stuff.
I was very fortunate to be in that program because it's one where they recruited from all across the country,
Mm,
and they only recruited about, I think it was about 20 people into the trading development program. And I was the only one selected at UCLA. In fact, I was the only one selected in California. So it was pretty awesome. And most of the other
about to say
people
that's
were from,
awesome.
yeah, yeah, it was a very intensive program.
Mhm. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Every year they cut you as well. So they cut the class every year.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was just the like last group that finished in the third year.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy. So congratulations though for making it through something like that.
Yeah,
That's like you said is very intensive and selective, if you will. And so it
yeah,
takes a certain type of person with the drive and the determination and the commitment and the brains, right? To be able to be in that space. So definitely kudos to you. So from there you said you went to Nigeria. And then from
yes.
there, you went to, was it Chicago or where'd you go? Washington,
Columbia.
Columbia. Okay.
So I really enjoyed working at Owando and in Nigeria.
Mhm.
And I also realized that if I really wanted to do an MBA, and I'd just been putting it off for many years, and I
Okay.
was getting so much more responsibilities, and I just felt that it would help me have just a stronger foundation in terms of just business acumen and managing, large corporations to have my MBA. So I decided to then take the time to do my MBA, and that's when I got into Colombia and I moved back to New York. Oh, not back, but I moved to New York. It felt like back because my family lives in New York, but
Okay.
I'd never lived in New York. So I moved to New York and yeah, completed my MBA there and focused on entrepreneurship and supply chain.
Nice. Nice. And so pivoting from there, right? Because Columbia, they have like a real estate program there. And that's probably one of the reasons why Adiola always has us at Columbia for the DCRE. So make the connection between the two for the audience. Like, so you went from oil trading and getting your MBA at Columbia. So what was it that said, hey, real estate for you?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So when I started at Columbia, I knew at the back of my mind that I was going to transition out of oil. Ultimately, I wasn't sure if it was going to be right away or not. And and mainly because I really wanted, like, something that's always been important to me is working in an industry that has global impact, but
Mm-hmm.
also one that has a positive spillover effects. So
Mm-hmm.
that in whatever we're doing, it is creating an ecosystem that is, self-sustainable, that's growing, that drives economic growth. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things I really loved about oil, was just the fact that, if for instance, because I used to move oil cargoes from across the world, right? And if, for instance, there was a delay in my oil cargo, there would actually be a shortage of gasoline in the country, because we were that big of a company. And
Right.
so just working in something that impactful really mattered to me. But there were also elements, as you know, it's the oil industry that, was creating a lot of problems, endemic in Nigeria, but also just across the world, in the Middle East, and so on and so forth. So I was always, so I was wondering, okay, what other big impactful industry is there that I can kind of bring my skill set to, but has, more of a growth generating and more positive spillover effect. So initially, I was interested in manufacturing because it was kind of like the nascent years of big manufacturing in Nigeria around that time,
Mm-hmm.
where especially mixed with e-commerce was starting to really grow. So there was a huge outlet for if you were able to manufacture within the continent, you can also sell within the continent through e-commerce. And so I started exploring a business idea around that.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was at Columbia, I was in the entrepreneurship incubator and so on and so forth. So when I got out, I actually started working in that field and doing exactly that, and then even started my own business. But what I found with manufacturing was just the way the business is set up just was not the right fit for me. I was just not enjoying my day to day, even though it hits many of those elements. Um, it's so when I do an oil cargo, for instance, that's, let's say, $28 million, you're able to generate a profit of, let's say, $1.8 million, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But with manufacturing, you have to sell like a million little gadgets to make
Mm-hmm.
such a smaller margin.
Wow.
and,
Yeah.
and so just economically, it was not, it didn't work the way I wanted it to work,
Mm-hmm.
just based on just the way the business is set up. So while I was I'd moved back to New York, and while I was exploring, I got a consulting project in real estate,
Okay.
and started while I was working within real estate, it kind of exposed me to commercial real estate,
Mm-hmm.
and it made me realize, because you'll be walking around New York and these huge skyscrapers everywhere, and also a lot of huge developments going around, and I was wondering, like, who's behind making these decisions? Like, I know I'd also seen how different, like, for instance, in Harlem, where Columbia is near, there
Mm-hmm.
was so much development going on that was really changing the face of
Yes.
the street of
Right.
125th Street. And you
Mm-hmm.
were seeing the same just in different other areas in across New York. So it made me very curious about, like, who's part of this decision driving mechanism, as
Mm-hmm.
well as, how can you do this development without gentrification, with actually including the people in the environment, because those were part of the conversations that were going on. So I
Mm-hmm.
started exploring, what the different types of careers within commercial real estate. And one of the big pivotal change, I guess, moments for me was attending the very first diversity in commercial real estate conferences in
Okay.
2019.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just such an eye opener. I saw so many people that looked like us doing the most
Yes.
amazing things within commercial real estate.
Love it.
It really gave me such a, not only insight into what is possible, but also the fact that that you can succeed in this regardless of all the barriers, because
Mhm.
there's so many people that have already trailblazed and are still trailblazing in the arena.
Yes, yes. I definitely agree with that. I went last year for the first time, and was just blown away. I'm older than you, and I remember when I was coming up and trying to get into the commercial real estate space, there really wasn't many of us, right? I mean, I think across the country, I could probably have maybe my hands and somebody else's hands, and that's it. You know, maybe 15, 20 people that somebody may have known about. But to be at that conference and just to see so many Black and brown people is just it's overwhelming for me, and it really fills my heart. But it's also like just so exciting, and I'm happy that something like that exists. And I was talking to somebody today who actually spoke at the conference, and she was basically saying the same thing, like, you know, what she loves about the DCRE conference is that when you go there, people are not pretentious. They really want to, yes, you know, they really want to help each other. They want to collaborate. They want to exchange ideas. They don't mind being mentors or mentees, you know, whatever it is that they can do to help the next person succeed and achieve their goals. They're so willing to do that. And you know, I just think it's such a great idea. And I don't know if you are aware, but not only does she have that conference, she also has another one specific to women in capital. Have you seen that?
Mm.
Okay.
I've not attended yet, but it also looks like an amazing conference.
It does. I haven't attended it either. But yeah, we were talking about that today too, and was so super excited about that. And so you went up to New York, you went to school, you moved there, you saw all of this development, this gentrification in our communities. Like you said, it just unfortunately happens across the country. You know, that we know that our land is valuable, but others do too. We just don't necessarily have the resources to keep it. And so it makes it easier to be taken over and built upon and moved into other communities. And so you saw that and you said, you know what, I want to do something about it. I feel like I have something in me that can move into that space as well. So how was that transition? How did you transition into fully getting into real estate full time?
So that was definitely a journey and a story in itself, because kind of just like you alluded to, the doors are not just like swinging open for people like us to come into the
They are
industry.
not.
And so I guess to kind of summarize it, I I started so you know at first I first kind of decided, okay, what are the areas that I'm interested in, right? And I started applying in those areas. But what I found was that it was just the even with the conversations that I was having, regardless of all the things that I've achieved in the past or all the things that I'm capable of based on my, education and so on and work experience, if I didn't have direct real estate experience, whether it's in asset management or in brokerage or whatever it was just almost like a kind of like a wall. Like, well, you haven't done it before. We're not going to take a chance on you trying to do it here. And, that was kind of basically the energy. And
Right.
so it was really daunting, but I'm not one to give up easily.
Mhm.
So I just kind of kept so I tapped into Columbia's Milstein, so the Paul Milstein real estate alumni network, and got talking to a lot of people within the industry, just learning about their journeys, how they got in, getting advice from them on how to move and pivot. They helped me make more introductions to multiple people.
Right.
So I did a lot of networking, a lot of conversations. Went to a lot of like mixer events to just to get to know more people, know more about the industry. Went to a lot of like other conferences and panels and seminars that the center had, and grew my knowledge base in that realm.
Mhm.
And then I was able to get a brokerage role in so it was real estate. It was investment sales and office leasing for a company in New York. And so while I was at that company, I also got into Project REAP. And so Project REAP was another really pivotal moment for me. And I found out about Project REAP through DCRE. So it's all like just this beautiful sequence of events that
Yeah.
kind of led me to where I am right now. Like, God is really good. And
Yes.
so through Project REAP, Again, so Project REAP was interesting because I was in the 2020 class,
Okay.
and I'd waited so many months for it to start, for it to, and I was so excited to get into it, meet the people, meet the network through Project REAP. We had a couple weeks of in-person sessions, and then COVID hit.
Right.
And then I also got COVID. Like I was one of the first in that first week that New York shut down. I also got COVID.
Oh, wow.
And it was such a horrible experience. So the whole world came to a grinding halt. And I
Mm,
had so much lined up for 2020 that I worked so hard for, like investment sales opportunities I was working on, brokerage opportunities I was working on, and everything just came to a grinding halt. Nobody wanted to go into office space. Like it was something else. But again, just perseverance. So
right.
once I got better, I was like, okay, I'm in my apartment in New York, and I'm still going to pave a way somehow in this industry. So what I started doing was then networking to people through LinkedIn.
Yes.
So just
Yeah.
kind of continuing those. And I think thankfully, because a lot of people were stuck at home, they were even more receptive to just jumping on Zooms with a
Right.
random person they don't know. But
Yep.
people are just so gracious and so kind. It was just really wonderful. Like can be just, when God sends you to angels, they really show up.
Yes.
And so continued to meet a lot of people, made more introductions, continued to learn kind of what it takes to get to where I want to be.
Hmm.
And so from that, I started understanding that there's like key certifications that would help me kind of bridge the gap between where I am and where I'm trying to be. So I also used that time to do a real estate financial modeling certificate.
Okay.
And then Project REAP then merged with ULI, and it gave us access to this library of a ton of real estate education. So from everything from um, pro formas to
Mhm.
land development, land acquisition, whatever it is. They had just tons and tons of education. So I got even more certifications from that, plus the Project REAP ULI Academy certification. Then I also did an Argus certificate, which is a system that's used for asset management. So
Right.
basically just beefed up my
Yeah.
certifications to demonstrate that I can do this. Just give me that
Yeah.
opportunity.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
and so again, after all of that, and all those meetings, I finally got a breakthrough and started getting really good interviews and opportunities. And so in the middle of all of multiple interviews, I finally decided on a company that does home building, which is interesting because it's felt like a pivot, but it was ultimately really just by design, because it brought together everything that I was interested in knowing and having experience within real estate. Because you could either go a development path, or you could go
Right.
an asset management path, or you could go a land acquisition path. But what happens with home building, it's very vertically integrated. So
Right.
you do it soup to nuts. Like you're involved in land acquisition, you're involved in the actual land development, then you're involved in the actual construction, and then you're involved in the financing of the project,
Right.
as well as then the delivery and takeoff, so the sales of what you're building as well.
Right.
So I was very fortunate to again get recruited into Hovnanian, where I as a development manager. And on top of that, I also did a one year program with them, where it's called the Accelerated Leadership Development Program. So it was almost getting like a master's in development, where for it was about a 10-month period, and I
Hmm.
did four months doing actual construction. So I was an assistant construction manager
Okay.
for building out these $1 million homes in Northern California. But I was on the ground, like working with the trades, doing plumbing, doing, just because I love to learn, I love to get
That's
my hands dirty. That
awesome.
was while I was able to thrive in the oil industry.
Hmm.
And so I just kind of brought the same, spirit and energy, and just like love for learning to this industry.
Right.
And then I did another couple of months in sales management, then land development, land acquisition,
Hmm.
financing, and then I was then assigned my own mega project to work on, which is so we're building 302 single family homes that are age qualified for senior housing for 55 plus. Um, and it's in Northern California, and also building an amenity center that's also really nice. So we're building out this neighborhood of 300 homes, and I'm in charge of everything involved with it. So managing the P&L, I manage the construction team, I manage the sales team, and then I also work with, all the other departments within the company to make it a profitable project.
Oh, that is absolutely, that's so wonderful. That is absolutely amazing. And so your timeline, would you say from, we're not even going to talk about the fact that you are like a child prodigy, you graduated at 16 and all of that. So let's just go up to at least UCLA, right? And so from the time from UCLA to now, that took you a span of how many years you would say, about, give or take?
So I think that's about 17 years.
17.
Yes.
You look like you're 19. So I don't.
Well, what do you say? It's genes, right? You know the phrase.
Oh
The phrase, it's my grandmother's genes.
my
I know,
goodness.
I get it. I get it all the time. It's interesting because in the work, they love saying that women don't like saying their age, but I find that in the professional world, I'm constantly saying my age so that people, because I feel like people are constantly looking at me like, wait, why are you in charge? Or why are you, like, why do you look so young and so on? But,
Right.
genes can be helpful, but I feel like I always have to tell people that I'm,
You are.
older, older than I look. Oh, you want me to announce it? I don't know.
Sure.
I have to come to terms with it because I just hit the fourth floor this year. So
You
I'm 40.
know you are. You have to be kidding me.
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
look, folk. All right, I'm about to have a moment right here on Development Dimes. Lord, are you? I would have never guessed it, and I kid you not, I would have never guessed that. I could have sworn you were in your 20s.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the compliment, but
Oh my
I
goodness.
hit 40.
Wow. Well, good for you because I'm knocking on 50. So I'm 5 months
You look awesome
from
too.
50. So that's why the short hair and gray, like if you look at my other podcasts, I had my hair out and all that. I said I'm cutting it off because I'm over it.
Oh,
You know? But
yeah. I've been very. I don't even have a single gray hair,
wow.
so it's really a blessing.
Yeah,
And
that's
my younger sister has a head full of almost gray hair.
well, life can do that to you at some point, and or unless it's hereditary, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
no, that's absolutely awesome. Welcome to the 40s. The
Thank
40s, I
you.
believe, are amazing. I really believe that, and but I'm also understanding what other people say when they start to turn 50, you start to reevaluate your life. And you're like, okay, so I'm going on to the other half of the century now. So what am I gonna do moving forward? But anyway, I just think
Yeah.
that your story is just a great story because you telling it seems like it wasn't a long time at all. Right. But in actuality, really it started when you turned 16, like when you graduated from high school at 16. And now what's that? 24 years? About
Mm-hmm.
about
Yeah.
24 years. And there's a lot that you accomplished in that time though. The thing that I love that you said a couple of things that I absolutely love. The fact that you did this one thing, which was extraordinary, in my opinion, a young Black lady in the oil business, like being an oil trader, that's just crazy to me. Crazy awesome, right? And then having walls put up to say, just because you didn't know real estate, I don't care that you did this amazing stuff over here across the country. You have all of this education. You are well learned. It's not real estate, so you don't know what you're talking. Are you freaking serious? When we had the conversation before, you was like, it's not rocket science, and I'm like, it's not.
It really is not. It's
It's
not. I mean, experience matters, right? It
it
really does.
does.
I'm not knocking that, but I
Right.
think that also does acumen, and so does a drive and a
Yeah.
passion for something.
Yeah.
And I think that capable people are able to learn and work in, whatever they put their mind to. And I would like to see more recruiters being kind of open-minded in that, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I have so much more to say, but I don't even want to go past that because I mean, seriously, I think we need to move in that direction. If people have the drive, the ambition, they do have some education behind them, right? Be open to giving them the opportunity to learn. And I know, some recruiters may say, or some jobs may say, well, I don't want them learning on my dime, learn on somebody else's dime. Well, you might miss out because if they go somewhere else and learn where somebody is a little bit more welcoming and open to bringing that person in and showing them the ropes, giving them a foundation, a lot of us are loyal, right? And so if somebody is that open to giving you that opportunity, like I just said, I know for me personally, it's hard for me to just learn and leave. I feel
Mm,
like I owe a sense of loyalty to that person or to that
mm,
company to kind of to stick it out and not just take and run, right? Although they do know at some point there's only a level that that particular job, if you will, a company can give you. And so if you aspire to do more, then you will eventually move on. But they just need to be open in the beginning and not put so many barriers of entry for us to get into that space. So again, that's
yeah.
why, like you mentioned, I love DCRE as well, because there were people in that room who did everything. There was someone who did something that you would be interested in and willing
Mhm,
to mentor, coach, give you a job, you
mhm.
know. And so I really like that. But honestly, I think it is commendable what you're doing. And so with you building this community right now, where do you see yourself in like the next 5 years or so?
I think that's a good question. To touch on something that you said just a little bit, I think the important thing about when you give people that opportunity, and that will come with the training, right, to be able to put that opportunity into use for the company,
Mhm.
then the onus also is on the company to create an enabling environment where not only does the individual have that sense of loyalty and want to stay, but will also be in a conducive and an enabling environment to
Mhm.
continue to thrive and to
Yeah,
continue to put
bro.
back,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, put back what has been invested in them, right?
Mhm.
And make it a win-win for
I love
everybody,
that. Yes,
right? So
I
I
love
think
that.
that's kind of important to keep in mind, because I know so many friends who are in a similar boat, where they've come into different to companies at different levels,
Mhm.
and are also really have a sense of, like, wanting to achieve things at the company and make things work.
Mhm.
But sometimes things like culture and so on and so forth just are not conducive.
Yeah,
And at the end of the day, you also have to work in an environment that you enjoy,
right.
where you're received, where you're appreciated and valued. And I think
Exactly.
that's important. Then and then to your more recent question, I think it's what so I really want to one of the things that one of the reasons I came into real estate in the first place is
Mhm.
really to be able to be a part of real estate projects that are having an impact in the world that they operate in. And I think ultimately that is really what I'm interested in doing. And I think the great thing about real estate is, even if I'm a mom and pop developer and I go into a neighborhood and I just build one little strip mall, or just do something where even if it's like a multi-family apartment,
Mhm.
just because it's well kept and managed, it
Mhm.
it just improves the value of everything all around it. And
Right.
that's what I really love about real estate, is just the fact that you, no matter how lofty the goals can be, you can operate at any level, whether it's a single entity or part of a major corporation, to do projects that really have a positive impact. And it all starts with having the right intention, right? When you're underwriting, when you're designing the project, when you're deciding what your tenant mix is going to be, or user mix, or whatever it's going to be. And so I really would love to, I think that's kind of ultimately where I would like to see myself going further in my career, is being part of real estate projects
Hmm.
where we are building really thoughtfully crafted placemaking
I love it.
that grows the economics of that region, but also has a social impact element where people are also proud to be there, proud to be
Right.
associated with that development, where it's not just like putting people, I guess just displacing people, but instead creating, because at the end of the day, we people from all walks of life need to operate in any given environment. You can't create like a little oasis that's only for one
Right.
type of
Right.
versus another, right? The whole world has to, somebody's got to clean, somebody's got to cook, somebody's got to work, somebody's going to got to take care of their kids. Like there's a, right, there's a mix. And I think real estate can really address that mix just by doing thoughtful design, thoughtful placemaking,
Hmm.
and we can really build environments where we work, live, and play that are well crafted and have that are part of the economic drivers of the environments that they work in. And that's really what I would like to be involved in.
Nice. I love that. And there are so many of us that have that same desire. And so I really don't think that you would have a hard time finding someone if you chose to like partner with someone. I don't think that you would have a hard time finding people to kind of help you or guide you or mentor you or coach you or whatever in that space, because again, so many of us have that same desire for our communities. And so I am going to ask you one last question that I like to ask at certain points during the conversation, but there are so many other young women of color who want to be involved in some aspect of commercial real estate. Now, with you, your niche is development. And so, what would you recommend those ladies do to get started, those young ladies do to get started? Is it going to school? Is it doing like the certificates like you did? Is it joining networking? Like, what would you recommend that they do to get started?
I think the most important thing is, first of all, growing your awareness of what's possible within real estate. Before you really choose a vertical that you want to focus on, you really want to know all the, because there's just so much that's available and possible, right? People working in there, like I'm a part of a ULI, Urban Land Institute, and within that, you just meet so many people doing so many things, from the engineering aspect to, like there's just so much,
I
right?
love
That there's,
ULI.
yes, and I think that, so being a part of organizations that allow you to meet people from, just across the spectrum of real estate professions, and also allow you to become or to be involved in seminars and events where people are talking about what they do, what the day in the life is like, what kind of projects they're working on. And so from that, get a sense of, what, gets your blood excited. What do you see what can you envision yourself doing, and ultimately what path do you think is where you would like to be for a long period of time, where you would like to really build your career, like what would you like to build your career achieving, and then you can decide later on, okay, what paths will I get there, because it's, yeah, as you can see from mine, it wasn't a straight path. It was like
Right.
been many, you
And
know
most of the time
so
it isn't, though, to be honest with you.
right.
Most of the time it isn't. So,
Yeah. And I think that was what made it difficult for me transitioning to real estate, is that what I did find is that there are a lot of people, especially from families that have been in real estate, where
mhm,
it's kind of passed down. So they are already raised to be aware of what's possible within commercial real estate.
Mhm.
And there's a big distinction, right? Because a lot of people imagine real estate and only think about residential and residential brokerage,
Mhm.
and they don't realize this whole world of commercial real estate. And so I think so that's why I think the awareness piece is so important.
Mhm.
Joining student organizations that are involved in real estate to really, build that awareness. And then from there, when you have an idea of, okay, what is the path that interests me? And it doesn't have to be a path that you'll be stuck on forever, right? It's like, okay, what interests me now? And I think that helped me a lot in advancing my career really fast is having that intellectual curiosity that, okay, even if I'm not there yet, I want to see what it's like. So when I was in university, I did a ton of internships. Like I was just constantly doing things because I really wanted to know what it's like to be in this office. Okay, what I always like I remember when I was younger, you on TV and you see people sitting in front of a desk. And I'm like, what are they doing in front of their desk all day? Like, how is that work? What are they doing? And so I did I did
Right.
all because my parents were entrepreneurs. And so so what through internships, that's when you start seeing, okay, what is actually going on, all the different departments and so on and so forth, how they work together. And I think with real estate it's the same. And through that, it's really a business where you grow also through apprenticeship, where you learn from others that have been doing it really well. So also find people that can mentor you, not just in a sense um of giving you overall guidance about your life, but also people that can be very specific in, okay, I am working on this project. What is the best way to think about approaching this?
Well, that's
What is the best way to think about, laying this out and executing and getting feedback, not be afraid of feedback and criticism, constructive criticism and guidance and change and adjust and be very humble in spirit in doing that as well, I think, because at the end of the day, regardless of how accomplished people are or what they are capable of doing, we're all human beings and we want to relate with each other from that context. And I
Mhm.
think that, a lot of young people can really benefit from just being like humbly learning from others.
I love that. And we're going to leave it there. That was it. That last humbly learning from others. OMG. That that right there, if we can master that, right? How much further along would we all be individually and collectively? Wow, that right there, I may have to put that blast on humbly. Yeah, that was cool. So good stuff. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, no problem at all. Like, I don't think you all know. Well, I know you don't know. She and I have been trying to do this for a little bit now, and we weren't able to kind of get it going. And I see why. Sometimes when dimes drop dimes like she did on this podcast, yeah, it was some great stuff, and I hope that it will inspire someone to say that, if she did it, I can do it too. So good stuff. Thank you again. I really appreciate you coming on, and best of luck to you. Like, I know we're going to stay in touch anyway, because I'm just like super proud. Like, I'm super proud, like you're my little sister. Like, look what she doing, y'all. I'm like just so happy. So kudos to you. Good stuff. And thank you again. I really appreciate you for coming on.
Thank you, Tawanda. I really appreciate you inviting me. This has been
Yeah.
so fun. And it's just always great to connect with other people in the industry. And your podcast is just awesome. So I really appreciate you even thinking of me and including me in it. I'm really grateful.
Yes, no problem at all. At all. Have a good one.
You too. Take care.